All right, what's up, everybody? Beautiful people. Welcome back to another episode of the Twisted Wanderer podcast. Today, I'm joined by an amazing inspiration I found on Instagram. Her name is Katelyn. On Instagram, she goes by Katelyn underscore PDX underscore model. And she has been through quite a bit, and I think her story will resonate with a lot of you listeners. So I'm going to give the floor over to Katelyn and let her introduce herself a little bit.
Hi, my name is Katelyn. I'm 19. I am from Oregon. I've been in the hospital most of my life. I have Marfan Syndrome, which causes a lot of different medical issues. Yeah, I just really love to share my story, and my big dream is to be in the medical field, but also direct war movies, because I love them. So yeah, just really doing anything to put it back forward. All the good that I've gotten from the hospitals, I like to pay it forward.
Yeah, definitely. That could not have been easy growing up in the hospital. So, from what I read, if you want to take, I know you have scoliosis, right?
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
had
yeah.
like 5 back surgeries. So, I guess what earliest do you remember? Do you want to start from the back surgery? Do you want to go into there? Because I'm curious as to why you needed 5, and then you just go from there if that works with you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I was diagnosed with scoliosis when I was 11, I think. We noticed that I couldn't sit up straight. I was pretty much like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. It was really bad.
Oh,
And
I
um,
love that you used that
went
because my grandma
in.
used to say that about herself. So I find that adorable. Just reminded me.
Um, we went in to check on it because we weren't sure. And they were like, yeah, it's already at like a 60-degree, 70-degree curve. And I think the main like highest degree is 100. I'm sure there are people that are higher than that, but that's like very concerning.
Yeah.
And so we're like, okay, we got to get in surgery as soon as possible, really, because I was 11, and it was only going to get worse from there, from it already being that high at that age.
Hmm.
We started out with a back brace, and they made it bolted to my body. It was like made out of plastic, and they made it out of soccer, like designed it with soccer balls, and I was supposed to wear it to keep my curvature from getting any worse. I didn't really wear it, but oh well, it was
Okay.
very
For yourself.
painful. But then we had a decision to either get my magnetic rods, which would grow in my spine, because I was 11, so it didn't stunt my growth, or do halo traction, where they screw bolts into my head and pull my spine from my skull to get more of a lengthening done. Well, get my back straighter before we get the rods put in, which was a very hard decision because obviously another additional surgery and having bolts screwed in my head.
Yeah.
Um, but it would also require me living in the hospital for 2 months in order to do it. But I contemplated that and I was like, it might be 2 months, but it's also the rest of my life. So I went with it.
Hmm.
And by that time, we finally got it set up because the hospital takes forever to set dates. My back got to a 90-degree curve. Was very bad. Um, and so I got the halo traction done, lived in the hospital for 2 months. Very interesting
My
experience.
goodness. Take me on that journey. What was that? What was that like for you to just be in the
Um,
hospital for a full 2 months?
well, I've been in the hospital pretty much my whole life, but I know it like the back of my hand. I always said it was my second home. Um, but not being able to leave the facility at any time was definitely constraining. And the surgery itself was the easiest surgery I've ever had. I think it was only like an hour long. It never hurt. I never felt the screws in my head. But the first night that I was in the hospital, it went very poorly because so this bolt screwed into your skull, and you have like a halo, and then there's strings that are on the very top, and it goes behind your like locker or bed wherever you are, and on those strings are weights, and they will put more and more weights to slowly pull your spine. And you're supposed to start at like 5 pounds. The nurse for my very first night with this thing on, put like 15 pounds. Let's just say that was a horrible night. And we finally eventually got them to like take it off once the shift change happened and the new nurse came in. So it started off rocky, but
Wow,
after
yeah, that's a
that,
lot. That's just right off the bat. I'm just like, how? I just look up to you because I really, literally, I'm just like, how did this strong woman go through this? Like, young woman, like, wow. Okay, so first night in the hospital, we are already lifting more weight than we should be, technically, not lifting, but you know what I mean? That's
yeah,
like
I was not
wild.
surprised.
How did you feel
Um,
the next day?
I felt great the next day because the weight was off, and I was like, "This is easy now." Um, so I guess that was beneficial. But from going forward, it wasn't bad the first week. Like, yeah, I got to explore the hospital, went places I probably shouldn't have been in the hospital, and luckily, like, there was somebody who made like a little bike, like a little motorized car for me that hooked up to
What?
the car, so that was really cool. And everyone was pretty nice on my ward, and yeah, it was pretty chill. After about the first month, it definitely got worse mentally because also the only access to outside I have was the playground on the very top of the building. You can only walk around the patio a couple times before you start losing your mind. So I
Yeah,
definitely got a bit stir crazy. But there are people that, came and visited, like family, but there were like cosplayers and clowns and service dogs. I had a goal of meeting all the service dogs, and I almost did, but I had to leave by time then, so unfortunately not. But yeah, I mean, you find ways to get distracted, and I did.
definitely. Wow.
Um,
So
but then when the 2 months were finally up is when I had the first set of rods, so my first back surgery. Um, and that's the one I happened to die on.
I
Um,
read that only like that just in its own is just I have so
uh,
many questions, but take me on the journey there.
yeah.
Thank you for
So
sharing it.
we were definitely very, very nervous because we already knew I was at huge risk because I also still had my chest concave at that time where my chest hole was so deep you could like grab my spine from the front of me. Um, and it was crushing my heart and my lungs. So we were like, how is that mixed with pushing on my spine and putting rods in going to affect? And obviously, I already have like a heart condition and just not great health. So we were very nervous. But it got set up. It was funny too, because before I went under, I was like, just promise me I don't wake up with a tube down my throat. And my doctor's like, I'll try my best. I woke up with a tube down my throat. That's all I care about.
Yeah.
I was so angry. But we went in and it was pretty smooth at the beginning. And then I all of a sudden took a turn for the worst. And apparently they were like about to be done with the operation and the blood started draining out of my heart because of all the pressure mixed with the chest and the back. And it all pulled down to my feet. And I ended up flatlining and
Yeah.
dying.
Oh my
Um,
goodness, Kate.
so my doctors had to immediately stop, which luckily they were like done. So it was good timing to be dying. But they had to staple me shut in order to do it. So I had to have 84 staples removed after the fact. So that was fun.
Wow.
But they got me stapled and then they flipped me upside down. Oh how, to get the blood back into
Blood.
my heart. Yeah. And they eventually did, and I was stabilized again, but then my lungs went and my lungs were not breathing at all. They completely were gone. So I ended up in a medically induced coma for a week and on life support, uh, which was a great time. And they were watching it, and my lungs were just not giving anything. My heart was totally back to normal at that point.
Okay.
And after about the second 3 day, because they have a monitor to see which breaths are the machine and which breaths are you. And the breath that was me was empty for the whole time. And I slowly, like once in a while, would get a breath in. So they knew I was slowly getting better. It just was like a waiting game. And eventually I kept taking a couple of my own breaths, and they decided that they were going to lower the dose that put me in the coma, like whatever medication. And if I lower it and I start breathing better, then they'll just take it off completely and see if I can sustain myself. So they did, and I kept going in back and forth, but eventually I was able to get my lungs going again, and I just woke up.
You're literally a miracle. I'm so happy you woke up, and I'm so
Yeah.
happy I get to talk to you today. Um, does that how were you able? I'm just curious because this is my medical background, just thinking, did you hear anything going on? Like, do you have like memories of being in the induced coma?
So like when I was in the coma, I remember hearing voices and like conversations, and when I woke up, I would be talking and I'd be like, "Oh, when are we doing this? Oh, what's doing this?" She's like, and my family would be like, "You were asleep when we had that conversation." I was like, "Oh, guess I heard you." And like when I had like was in that in between or dying or just in my coma, I do remember like kind of just being in like a dark space, not like scary, just in like a waiting room type energy, and that was pretty much all I saw. That's all. And then it was
Wow.
yeah, or like just sleeping, but with no dreams. It was very interesting.
Wow. Wow. Well, that is just, I'm just, wow. I'm shocked. Like, I can't believe. And then you went on to, like, you're just so strong. Like, that's why I just, like, I have to talk to you.
Thank
Um, yeah, thank you. So take me there. You're awake. You get the tube
you. Yeah.
removed.
I woke up and I immediately was upset because of the tube. And I like looked over to my mom and I'm like, hello, and like, give me my phone. And she's freaking out because all of a sudden I'm awake and she hands me my phone and she thought it was like open a notepad. And I just started taking pictures of myself because I thought it was funny. I was like, oh, I want to show people this one day. And I also wanted to see what the tube looked like. So,
Yeah,
so
that's
she was
nice.
very upset. Uh, but then after, well, actually, yeah, I really didn't like the tube to the point they had to strap me down to the bed because I kept trying to rip out my breathing tube that was keeping me alive. And it got very bad. But eventually, I think the next morning, I was able to get it taken out. So after that,
Okay,
I was
good.
happy. I was totally chill. I got up, I think, the next day and started walking, and yeah. But then in addition to the dying, I had to still recover from the spine surgery. So
Yeah,
it
that's
was,
a lot.
I was like trying to manage both at the same time. It was a very strange experience.
Yeah, it's a lot to go through right there. Like, and then, so how much longer were you in the hospital from then? When were you, that was the 2 month period we're talking? This is
Mhm.
when you woke up and now you're in there for 2 months?
No, so the Halo traction was for 2 months to prepare then for the surgery. So then
Surgery.
for the surgery, I was in coma for about a week. And then I was in the ICU for about 3, 4 days. And then I got moved to like a regular room. And then eventually, after like a week total addition, I was able to go home. Yeah.
Wow. And then you went, that's just like, you're 11 at this time? Wow. And you're
I,
19 now, right? You said you're 19 now? Is that, I have to ask, and I know this may sound random, but I like to ask as we go, is when you woke up and you just took those pictures, I did see like on your Instagram, it's really, really cool, is that you are taking modeling and like trying to explain like those chronic pain feelings in photos. And I find that absolutely amazing. Is that kind of like where that stemmed from, you think? I know you're young, but like it's really
oh,
beautiful what you're doing with like photography. Really
you make
cool.
me cry. Oh my God.
Oh,
Um,
sorry. I just want you to
uh,
know, like, you've definitely had an impact, and that's why I wanted to talk to you.
thank you. No, absolutely. Since I was a little kid, I mean, what? Because my first surgery was when I was 10 days old, so I've been in this my whole life. But like I remember being like 5 or 6 and like I'm just going to film everything because I want to make movies and I want to like put it down. I always knew I wanted to do YouTube or something like that. And it's a very lonely place in the medical industry, especially as a child, because you don't really have anybody. And I always wanted to see someone else my age at that time going through what I was going through because I'd never seen it. So I was like, okay, well then I'll just do it myself. So and then I just started filming everything, and that's why I have so many pictures and videos of everything. Other than family taking it, I just knew that I always wanted to do film. And I thought it'd be a really cool way to like share my story if I'm in it instead of just like
Yeah.
20 years later, you know?
It's so cool. It's such a great, like, it's a great, like, I hate to say idea because it's your life and like it's so vulnerable of you to show it that way. But I think if any, if everybody did that, it would be just so much more, I don't know, better for everyone because you're right. We don't see enough of ourselves when you get the diagnosis. And you have, you said your first surgery was at 10 years old, like 10 days old.
Mhm.
So you've had, I know you've had 13 total, right?
Yeah.
So take me, so the first one was 10 days old. Then
Mhm.
from there, was it, did you have like a break and then like at 11 to start it again? Or like, was it just you were in the
Oh,
hospital always?
no, no. First surgery was 10 days old. Second was 3 months. Third was 6 months. It kind of kept going in and out from there. And then fourth was 5 years old. Six was 7 years old. Um, and then, and those were like really long processes. So it kind of lingered into 8 years old. And then at 11 is when I had scoliosis surgery. And then at one point, I think I had 3 surgeries in 1 year for my back because so much kept going wrong.
Oh my goodness.
But then, yeah, just I haven't, I think the longest in the last 5 years I have been without a surgery is 1 year. So I'm hoping to break it this year and not
Yes,
have any more
I'm
for
putting that out
longevity.
there for you. Manifest. Wow. Wow. So what do you have to ask? How do you stay, not stay, because I know we all fluctuate. I struggle with my mental health with like lots of things. I just wonder, like, how do you stay so like you're so I don't know, like your energy is like upbeat and you just want to help people and you're positive. So like that's amazing because some people, they go the opposite way. And we all have our reasons. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, how do you how do you do it? I'm just like, wow, you've been through so much in your life and you're only not only 19. I hate to say it like that, but like,
And I know what you
you have
mean.
so much left and like you've already been through something that people on earth are 30 and they haven't experienced anything like that. So how my question to you is, how do you stay in such a positive light with everything that you've been through?
Um, so it's like you have mentioned that like, it does fluctuate. I have been through like the 5 stages of grief with my medical conditions. When I was really younger, I was super, super positive. Like no one had ever seen me cry. I think the first time they had seen me cry was when I was 14. And that's just because so much was happening during one surgery and everyone froze in the room. They were like, I don't know what to do with that. Uh,
Oh,
and I was always just like, let's do it. And by the time I hit about, I'd say after 11, I just completely burnt out and I became a really angry, sad, mute person. And I was really depressed and it just wasn't stopping. Like I just kept having medical issue after medical issue, and I was like, "What's the point?" And I just got really down, and it was a really dark time in my life. And I think at 15 is when I finally started kind of moving out of the angry phase, and then I went into a very sad phase. And at between 16 and the very end of 17, it was just all sadness. It was just grief and trying to accept that I'm going to have a life that is different and I'm not going to have the life I want. I'm just going to have a different version of it. And yeah, it got very heavy. And then I got out of that state, and now I really am genuinely like happy and have accepted it. And like it took a really long time and a lot of self-work to identify what has the medical field done to me and like emotionally and all the traumas that I've adapted from it. Um, but like I think the biggest thing that got me out of the harder times is just one, remembering why I'm like fighting through all of it. You know, there's a goal in life, there's things I'm going to do, there's stories I'm going to tell. Um, but I think just like family in my future, like thinking about my future family and knowing that like if I had a kid, I would want them to embrace it and like learn to like, yeah, embrace it.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but yeah, and like I think I think just knowing that there's nothing else I can do. Like I can cry, I can be upset about it. It's not gonna change. It's never gonna go away. Nothing's gonna fix it. So might as well enjoy my life while I have it. Um,
Yeah.
and I just, I think I used to feel so much anger and shame for it because I felt like my life had caused so much destruction because it was so hectic. I didn't really think that I could find a positive in it. And now I'm like, well, being alive is a positive, and then it, like me um trying to pay it forward on my profile has actually helped me mentally because I feel like I'm using it for good, which then makes me view the condition in a more positive light. Then just helps me accept it more.
Yeah. You're so wise. Like, I know it's like everything that you've been through, but it's also you. Like you are, I don't like want to say that in like, oh, you're this way because of what you've been through. I want to say it in
Well,
a way
I wouldn't be
you're
the way I am without the experiences I've had.
exactly. But you also, you could have some people, I mean, I've stayed angry for longer than, the time period that you're talking about. So I just like need to give you like just extra kudos there because it's amazing that, at 15 years old, you were able to just be like, you know what? These are the cards that I'm dealt, and I am not getting a new hand. So I'm going to play these and make my situation mine instead of having a situation control me. And to be
Yeah.
able to do that at 15 years old, I can promise you would not be able to. So I know you've went through a lot, and a lot of that has made those decisions and life things, but it's also you and the way your mind thinks and your perseverance that got you there. So it's just really, really amazing. And I'm so happy. Like take me on what do you so I know you have your profile and things like that, but I was reading you want to be a director and modeling, like so take me on that journey. It looks like you're doing like, I mean, it looks like you're doing it. It's awesome. Like you have like followers and you have like great photos and things like that. So how's that going and how do you plan to reach your dream or things like that?
So for modeling, I have loved it since I was a child. I used to steal my mom's heels at like 5 and just be posing in the mirror. I absolutely love the camera. Being in front of it and behind it is just so fun. Um, and I have definitely had ups and downs with me being an aspiring model because I think it's so fun. I love the challenges. I love editorial. I think it brings out such uniqueness. And I remember when I would see people with like medical issues or just really out there features, it always was so fun growing up and like inspiring for me to see them. Um, so I again wanted to do that as well. And it still is really fun. I think it's just I really kind of like you had mentioned, want to like how I show chronic pain through modeling. I really want to try to find modeling like that, like uh either like editorial or just like emotion. I don't really know what category that is, so I think that's where I'm like at a standstill because I want to do modeling that has more of an impact and a message in whatever the shoot is, and I just gotta find that. So for now, I'm just trying to create it on my own vision. But it's still just so fun and I really enjoy it. And for the directing, I don't know where I'm going with it yet, just because it's a huge world. But I definitely know that I want to direct horror movies. I have been obsessed with horror movies since I was a child. I
Saw that too. I was like, yes, I love Halloween. We can talk about this. What's your favorite horror movie?
My favorite horror movie is It, but the remake, unfortunately.
English
But
movie.
I love
I'm
Stephen King.
He's awesome. Wow. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. It's just so funny you said it because I'm so afraid.
Really?
I don't know why I'm afraid of clowns. That's like the one clown that gets me, but I still watch the movie. I just can't sleep for a little while after, but it's worth it.
That's fair. No, yeah, no, I love It. I think the production is awesome and the amount of detail and like hidden messages. If you if you read the book and if you learn like all the details like put into each scene is really awesome. Um, but also like just the message behind it, I think also it had a huge impact on my life growing up when I did watch it because I mean I was also raised homeschooled and you just see like all these different kids homeschooled, gay, abused, whatever, just have so many different scary and medical one experiences and they all come together to face those issues that they're having and beat it to death. Uh,
Yeah.
and growing up, well, I didn't see kids in horror movies very much, but seeing people with real life struggles then face their fears made me like so amped growing up, and I loved it. So I think it had a great impact on me.
That's a really beautiful way to look at horror. I
But it's
never
real
looked
life.
at it like that.
I love it. That's why I love horror because like I always say like it may be a horror story for you, but to someone else it's their story because some of these are real life. These are real events and real feelings and experiences and the only time someone may see themselves is on screen in a horror movie and everyone else is scared, but
Wow.
they're just like, yeah, that's my day.
Light bulb moment. Now I'm gonna rewatch it with a really different like mindset.
Um,
Like honestly, literally, I'm off tomorrow. I'm gonna watch it today when I get out of work. Wow, that's really, really awesome. And then to jump back kind of to modeling, it's really cool that you want to do that because I like just found myself, I think like 2 years ago. I was like, oh, I think it would be so cool. Like I never get to see people with scars, like modeling. So I was like, you know what, I'll try it. And like it was my first time ever modeling, and like they're not the best pictures, but I was like, I love them. And I didn't know that like being or like being a model or like modeling for something that you genuinely, you want to advocate for and you want to tell your story. I didn't realize how empowering it can be. And it's definitely been 2 years too long because I definitely want to do more of it. But it's just like I'm more of like, let me be behind the camera person. So it's just like, how do you, I don't know, I guess like you've always loved it, but I guess like, what's your advice, myself included in needing this advice, to anyone out there who, does have scars and has gone through medical trauma and diagnoses that were hard for them, and they want to be seen more in the model world, but they aren't there, but they may be too afraid to, venture out and do it for themselves. What would be your advice for those people?
I definitely think it would depend on the context of why they're nervous or why they're insecure. But I think I'm a little bit biased just because I really love scars. Like I will even when I have a surgery, I will make sure to like it's probably not good for me, but I will like remove the scabs so it will scar deeper because I want them to stay as long as possible because my body also
Yeah.
heals very quickly. So it's for me, but I think they're fascinating. I love facial like strange features like crow's feet on the eyes and smile lines and stuff like that. I think they're really cool. So for me, scars are like epic.
Yeah.
And I know that my spinal one has gotten like the most wows and praise and like, and so I've never had any negative emotions towards it, but I do know people that have like hide it or are insecure of it. And I'm trying to think of how to like, I'm a tough love kind of person. I'm very like, just do it. Like, you're
Yeah,
awesome. Who cares? And I think if somebody doesn't like a scar or is like shaming somebody else for it, it's literally a scar. You went through something difficult. So if somebody is attacking you for it, it just shows how weak they are to attack someone from their strong story. Um, so I think knowing that if somebody is making you feel insecure, it's just them being insecure, especially attacking something that should be praised, like about a wound.
100%. Good advice. Love it. Yay. Um, that's what I want to say. Uh, kind of next thing was what, well, I know I talked on that a little bit, but why, I'm gonna go all the way back. Why did you end up, I'm just curious, why did you need 5 back surgeries? For like, was that all because of scoliosis or like complications? I know you have other like medical concerns and things like that. Was it a mix or was it like just the first surgery just needed to be fixed or
So it's a lot. I will try my best to like minimize it, but it was scoliosis and Marfan's combined, like they were just attacking me. And I with the first set of growing rods, they're not supposed to be in for life. They're just supposed to be there for puberty. So they lengthen in your spine. So they take a magnet and they put on your back and it pulls the rod up in your spine to grow with you. And I was only supposed to have those for about 2 years, I think, and I did. And then I was going to get my like lifelong rods. So that was the second surgery. Something has gone wrong every surgery, so I kind of don't remember all the dates. But
no, it's okay. To the best of your knowledge, you're good.
so that was done, and then they purposefully didn't fuse my lower vertebrae because they wanted to give me some movement in my hips. And now looking back, it didn't matter. But at that time, we thought that this was the reason this situation happened. But the rod started lifting out of my spine and protruding through my back, like almost breaking the skin. And a couple screws were also lifting as well. And this was part of the Marfans because with the Marfans, nothing is held down. So my body couldn't keep the rod in. It started shifting and lifting, on top of me just being really active.
Oh
So
my,
we had to go back in, and that's when I got my second set of rods. So they gave me 2 additional rods that fused into my lower back and then fused into my hips. So I'm pretty much Barbie. Like I can only go back and forth because my hips are
oh my
fused.
goodness.
So I have 4 sets total. At one point I had 6. We restructured my chest. So that was the second surgery. And then I think that's when, after that surgery, my leg really started to hurt. And I ended up pretty much paralyzed for 2 months,
Oh my
in
goodness.
a constant lockout spasm. It was horrible. And we went into the doctors immediately, and they're like, yeah, we think a screw is on a nerve and causing nerve damage and shooting it through my leg. So we had to go back in the surgery to take out the screw. And thankfully, it was the screw that like caused the nerve damage, but now my leg is permanently damaged. And it has come a long way. It used to be much worse, but it's always gonna be a little iffy. And then I think the fourth back surgery was again because the rod started lifting out of my spine again. And I think of how this one went.
You're good.
Yeah, that one lifted, and I think we just reinforced it. I think we took out some screws and shifted things around, trying to hopefully get it a little bit better. But I was almost done healing from this one, and the doctor or nurse, I don't know who did it, sewed the blood drain into my spine back.
No.
Yeah. So they were like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna go home in a little bit. Let's take out your blood drain." And they're like, "It's not coming out." And then the nurse
I
had
hate
like
those
pause
things.
and like, "Oh, it's sewn into you." I'm like, "Great." So I had to go right back into surgery and they cut open again and then remove the blood drain. So that was the fourth surgery in the same day. And then, yeah, I think it was kind of calm for, I think, through 16, but then I was really starting to live life. And like I was working a lot and it just slowly started rising out of my spine again. But this time it was the worst because it got to the point where it was like a hair away from ripping my skin open. And it got to the point where I started having internal bleeding. And when I would sit down in a chair or lay in bed too quickly, it would cut my skin and there would be an entire like sack of blood in my back. And I would black out from how much blood loss I was
Gosh.
having. So that was definitely urgent. And then my first main back doctor retired, and then I had to get a new back doctor. So then I made it
Oh,
take even longer. But I'm so happy that I did get a new back doctor because when I got him, other than he's really cool, he did like an X-ray, like super zoom, and found out that I had multiple vertebrae that were not fused. I had screws that were out of place, and like a bunch of things was wrong. And I was like, that's probably why I have so much pain, because like I was bedridden for almost a year. Like it was very bad.
my
Um,
goodness.
so luckily I went in, got that surgery done, and I feel the best. I mean, I'm gonna live with chronic pain I ever for the rest of my life, but million times better ever since that surgery.
Yeah.
And luckily, nothing has risen ever since. That surgery, though, uh, for my last back surgery, I woke up and everyone's like, "Don't move," and I'm like, "Why not?" And they're like, "So we had an incident, and one of the assistant doctors nicked my spinal column, and the liquid in my brain was draining through my spine, and obviously not gonna have any liquid in your skull. So they had to fuse it immediately. In order for the fuse to hold, I had to lay still for 24 hours. So I did, and everything was fine. And they're like, if you have any headaches, let us know. Like if something's wrong, totally chill. Got home finally after all of that, and I had the worst migraines of my life for 2 months. I would projectile vomit pretty much once a day because of how intense the migraines were.
Oh my
And I don't know how they stopped. I was about to go in to like get it checked up, and eventually they just kind of like would only happen once in a while. I don't know if it just settled down or if my brain made, I don't know if we could make more liquid. Whatever the reason was, it thankfully somehow stopped. But that was definitely not a fun side effect.
oh my. Well, I'm glad I asked because I definitely wow. You've been through so much. And I'm really, really, really happy that you found another doctor. Like I know like that it sucks that like that was even done wrong or like, things were missed, but I'm glad that they were able to you found someone that is taking care of you and, is like, I try and tell everyone like find the surgeon that is like you said, a cool guy. Like I don't want like some just person that's still like diagnose like textbook and just doesn't want to learn new things. So it's so important. So I'm so happy that you found someone to, be there for you and that you like trust. So that's awesome. My question from this is because I'm a little bitch, okay? I like don't understand how you I know you like had to do it, but like, how did you mentally prep to go under anesthesia over and over with all you've been through? I just feel like you just have to, I guess, get to the mindset of just like
I mean, I don't really know. I don't know. I've never really. I think just because I didn't know anything else. Like for a while, I didn't even know this wasn't normal with being homeschooled and just really being my life. I just was like, okay, yeah, no, let's do it. Typical Tuesday. Like it was just and then I still just have that mentality just because that's my instinct. And it's I should have more fear on it because I also did have anesthesia awareness at one point for one of my surgeries. I was awake.
I read that.
Yeah. So uh, afterwards, I would think I'd be a little more creeped out, but I didn't care. I was just like, try me. I don't know. There's
Try
nothing I
me.
can do about
Fine.
it.
I can handle this. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow. So you
But
actually, what is that called again? I read it very quick. I think I wrote
anesthesia
it.
awareness.
What is it called again?
Anesthesia awareness.
Oh, that's what it's called when you like suddenly wake up.
Well, when your body's asleep, you're paralyzed, but your brain's awake. And yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I didn't know that there were two. Like I know there's one where like you're under and like whatever they I guess didn't do like the measurements right, and then you like actually wake up. But I didn't know like the brain itself. So your body is completely numb, but your brain itself was awake and like aware.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. I think it's also when you have been under so much anesthesia, you kind of build tolerance like anything else. So I think that definitely makes me more at risk or other people that have been under so much. And it was one of my, I think it's my second foot surgery. And all of a sudden I'm like mentally I can't open my eyes, I can't move, I can't speak, but I'm mentally like I can hear everyone talking, I can feel like a lot of pressure, very uncomfortable, scary pressure. And the whole time I just had to sit there and wait, and it absolutely horrifying. And like it was a little painful here and there, but like I also don't know if it was like me freaking out because I don't know how much I could actually feel. But then when I woke up, the moment I got out of like anesthesia, I shot up and started screaming. I was like, I was awake, I was awake, I was awake. And my mom's like panicking. And they're just like, no, people say that, but that doesn't happen.
What?
And now there's actual studies, and now people actually have like brain waves machines to make sure you aren't mentally awake during it if you request it, if you know what it is. Because also they didn't warn me about it. Like no one told me I might accidentally be awake. So that's definitely something I'm like, yeah, please be aware of this, people, because it was not fun. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Sorry, my dog is over here wanting cuddles. Um, wow. I mean, the thing that stands out to me is one thing that in the medical field that really needs to change is if I tell you something, it happened. Like I'm not like I can't believe that was said to you. Like, no, people say
Oh,
that, but it's just not
oh,
a
yes. As a child, you are talked down to the whole time. It is great. I've made
I
nurses
must have been
call.
really annoying. I kind of I didn't think of that aspect. Like, because like my diagnosis did happen, like with scoliosis, at least like younger and things like that. But my surgery, I was in like 25. Well, I can't imagine like, you are smart and you know your body more than anyone. And to just be more exposed to being talked down to just because of your age, like, I'm sorry that you went through that because that's just bull and it shouldn't happen and it's wrong that it does happen. So,
Yeah, no, it's totally fine. I mean, I was a feisty child, and I remember my mom was all for it because she's taught me to just be very independent. But I remember being like 5 or 6 in like the doctor's rooms, and they're like talking about the surgery, and they're like, okay, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do this, and I'm talking to my parents, and I'd be like, I'm over here, and they would like, what? What? And they would be like, okay. And then they would turn and tell me about my own surgery. But the fact that I was even like conscious in the room, they couldn't fathom. And the amount of times I've been like, something's wrong here, something's wrong with my spine, they'd be like, or like when I was like 12 or something, they'd be like, it looks fine. you're probably fine. I'm like, no, something's wrong. And then they do an x-ray and it's all messed up. And I'm like, I would have told you,
Told you,
but
you're welcome.
doing your job for you. Oh my gosh. But yeah, no, it's very common.
A lot of like factors, but the fact that you were able to, come out on the other side and you are spreading such, like I've said, like joy. Once I found your page and I was like, oh, like because I started the Twisted Wanderer like back in October officially. I came up with it like 7 years ago after surgery, but I didn't do much with it. But and I started like finding people who, have gone through trauma in their life, have gone through surgeries, that are on the younger side, that had, and just you came across, and I don't know how I found you, but you did. And it's just been so, age really is just a number, because I have been through so many things in my life as well, but there's so many things that you have taught me. Like
Uh,
already from our conversation, and just like, like when we're talking about modeling, like hell yeah, there's definitely insecurities there. And for you to like, be able to like give that advice, like to me, like that's amazing. Like, so I want you to know age is just a number, and anyone who like tries to just that shit just makes me angry. So I just want to say boo those people, because you are as old as what you've experienced. And it's
yeah,
not people's fault. Good for you. If you haven't experienced anything traumatic, like good for them. But if you have, and like, it does age us. And it's just, I don't know, and it can go one or two ways. We can be angry about it, like we have been. I'm sure, I don't know, I have some angry days sometimes, but most of the time I'm happy and grateful. And I'm sure, you have your days too. But I think you really, really are, Katelyn, like just doing really awesome, and keep going, because I really think like models, there should be way more like models with open heart surgeries and back surgeries and, missing arms or leg. Like just, people need to be shown more, because there's so much more of us out there and we're not seen. So keep doing what you're doing, because it's needed, you're needed. And thank you for coming on here today.
thank you. No, thank you so much. I really appreciate you asking me and being so kind, and no, pleasure.
Hey. All
Oh
right.
my.
Well, I'm going to ask you one final thing for anyone out there who is on the beginning stages of whatever diagnosis that is scary to them. Give them one piece of advice that you would just give them.
Just be patient. The the time that the shock will pass, but also whatever emotion you are feeling will pass, whether it's like amped to just get it done, or sad or angry, the good and bad will pass. So just being patient with yourself and knowing that when you transition into another uh, viewpoint of the issue or emotion with it, it's normal, and not to feel guilty or just being human, and it's your condition, it's nobody else's, and you're allowed to feel however you need to feel about it. But also just saying that to yourself, because I try to control my own emotions, because I figured I should be feeling this way, or I should be reacting, or I should be strong right now or sad right now, when I'm not. And just accepting whatever your body needs to do, and just being patient with yourself.
I love that. That was helpful for me. Well, again, I'm just going to close us out here. I just want to, again, thank you for coming on, Katelyn. I'm so excited for everyone to hear this and hear your story. It's definitely a story worth spreading. So thank you for coming on. And then go ahead and shout out everywhere that everyone can find you, because I know you have a few channels and things.
Yeah, so my YouTube is one of a Katelyn, but it's like spelled one like ONE, one of a Katelyn. And then Instagram is the Katelyn underscore PDX underscore model. And I have a TikTok. It's Sweet Moo, like the cow. I just post random things on it. I don't really use it, but it's there. And that's pretty much it.
Cool. All
Thank you.
right. And Then everyone, you can find me at The Twisted Wanderer on Instagram. New episodes currently on Thursdays. Every 2 weeks, we're trying to get back up there, but I'm very slow at editing. So promise they'll be up soon. But until then, my beautiful people, I'll see you on another episode of the Twisted Wanderer podcast. Bye.